Cookeville City Council to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Anderson.
Present.
Councilman Shelton.
Here.
Mayor Salee.
Present.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Present.
Councilman Williams.
Present.
All present.
Thank you, Kathy. If we could all rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Shipley, do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Need to withdraw item 15. No other changes.
All right. Withdrawing item 15, do we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as amended?
So move.
Second.
Have our motion and a second. Seeing no comments, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Brings us to the old business portion of our meeting. Item 2, consider approval of minutes of council work session 11/16/09 and the meeting held on 11/19 of '09. Do we have a motion and a second to approve?
So move.
Second.
Have our motion and a second. Any discussion by the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Item 3, consider on second and final reading ordinance 091019, amending the zoning code pertaining to minimum lot and yard requirements for single-family attached dwellings, townhouses, in zoning districts allowing condominiums as uses permitted on review. Sponsor, Mr. Jim Shipley, or excuse me, James Mills. Sorry, I didn't mean to insult you there, James.
Mayor, council members, this ordinance would amend the provisions of the RM8, RM14 zoning districts to revise requirements for single-family attached dwellings, or what we also call townhouses. There's a photograph of some townhouses on the screen. It would also amend the provisions of the central business district, local commercial, general commercial, and university zones to allow townhouses in those zones. The primary purpose of these amendments is to reduce the encumbrance for the development of townhomes in zoning districts allowing condominiums and apartments. And all townhouses will be subject to these conditions that are depicted on the screen. The proposed amendments have been approved by the Planning Commission, are recommended by the Planning Department, and we've received no calls or comments since first reading.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mills. Do we have any comments from the council? Let's see, let's get a motion and a second.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments from the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing no comments, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Item 4, consider on second and final reading ordinance 091120, amending Title 5, Chapter 3 of the Municipal Code relative to Business Tax Act. Sponsor Kathy McLean.
Okay. Mayor and council, this just updates our code to reflect the new Business Tax Act, and I recommend approval on second reading, please.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion and a second to approve?
So approval.
We have our motion and a second. Any discussion by the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing no comments, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. McLean. Now we get to our consent agenda. We have several items, mostly setting a date. Item 5, setting a date for a public hearing on ordinance 091221, amending the Cookeville zoning code to establish density bonus provisions for the conversion of non-conforming uses in the RM8 district. Setting a date, January the 7th, and I guess that'd be for the last one too, for a public hearing ordinance 091222. Rezoning 435, 445, 455 West 12th Street and 2 vacant lots on West 12th Street. Setting a date for January the 7th for a public hearing on ordinance 091223, rezoning a portion of 1227 North Washington Avenue from RS10 to CN Neighborhood Commercial. And item 8, setting a date January 7th for a public hearing on ordinance 091224, amendments to the official street map. And setting a date for January the 21st for a public hearing on ordinance 091225, amendments to the Cookeville zoning code concerning regulations for the sexually oriented businesses. And item 10, consider awarding bid for full catered meal service for father-daughter date night, Leisure Services Department. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have our motion and our second. Any items that need to be discussed? Seeing no comments, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
All right, now to the new business portion of our meeting. Item 11, consider Resolution 091216, requesting the tentative award of 2 construction contracts for Hudgins Creek Pump Station, Force Main, and Interceptor Sewer, contingent upon state approval of contracts. Sponsor, Mr. Ronnie Kelly.
Mayor and council, we have about concluded this project. We have open bids on this Hudgins Creek Sewer project, and that's the project that is going to take the Honeybrook Pump Station, take it out of service, and go downstream south of town and put in another pump station, and then we'll pump back over to the treatment plant, which gets us in place to be able to handle the new 5th interchange utilities that will be put in at that location. And what we're requesting tonight is to, also in this project, we bid out a SCADA system that will also update our SCADA capabilities for all of our wastewater pumping stations and our water tanks, and that's located on this map. We opened those bids, and we did it under 2 contracts because they were 2 different contractors would bid on those. The first contract is MR Systems Incorporated, $357,656. They're the low bidder we're recommending. The next bid was the Hudgins Creek Pump Station, Force Main, and Interceptor Sewer. W&O Construction Company was the low bidder, $2,738,607.75. We'd recommend that bid also. The state requirements are that the council do a resolution awarding tentative award until they get the whole bid package, make sure all the requirements are followed, and so that's what we're asking tonight.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kelly. Do we have a motion and a second to approve?
Move approval. Second.
We have the motion and a second. Any discussion by the council?
Just to make note, this is one of the projects that has a principal forgiveness, is that
Yes,
correct?
this includes that American Recovery and Act money. There's $1.4 million will be principal forgiveness out of this $3.5 million project.
Very good. All right, very good. Any further comments? Any comments from the audience? Seeing no further comments, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Item 12, consider approval of renovations to the Medical Specialties Building. Sponsor, Cookeville Regional Medical Center. Mr. Mattingly.
Mayor, members of the council, thank you for the honor to be here this evening. And if it's not inappropriate, I'd like to extend to each of you and your families a very Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season. And to remind all of our citizens to please shop locally whenever you can, keep those tax dollars here in our community, and support our local businesses. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of Cookeville Regional Medical Center, I bring forth this evening a recommendation and request for approval of expenditures on a not-to-exceed basis of $200,000 for the renovation of what is referred to as the Medical Specialist Building located at the corner of 2nd and Whitney Streets here in Cookeville. This is a building that has been purchased by the Medical Center recently in the past year, and the renovations are intended to provide exam rooms, waiting, reception area for primary care physicians, and our goal in the future is to consolidate all of our employed primary care physicians into this one location, which will provide efficiencies of operation for us and also will provide convenience for all of the patients served by the primary care physicians that will utilize this building. So the request is on a not-to-exceed basis to approve $200,000 for this project.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mattingly. Do we have a motion and a second to approve?
Move approval. Second.
We have our motion and a second. Any discussion by the council? Any comments from the audience? Sir, if you could just approach the lectern and then please identify yourself.
My name is Justin Cumby. I was the low bidder on this project. it's my understanding that the recommendation is for Midstate Construction, which is not the low bidder on the project. And now I'm finding out that their bid was raised from their bid to now $200,000. We've had a few issues develop over the last few weeks. I was contacted and asked if I could do this project a little quicker. It was originally bid as a 180-day project. I was asked if I could do it in 120 days. I said, sure, you know, I can do it in 120 days. I'll be glad to. The architect said he would contact me the day after the approval from the hospital board. I'd never heard from him, so later in the afternoon I contacted him, asked what was going on, and he said that Midstate Construction had been awarded this project based on them being able to do it for 90 days. I wasn't even aware that that was an option, and I wasn't even aware that I was still competing for the project. Later on the next week, I emailed the architect, before the meeting, I emailed the architect and asked the architect if I needed to go to this meeting at the hospital. He responded no, that they don't even allow him to come to these meetings. I do have that email. I provided that email to Mayor Salee. Later on the next week, I found out that this meeting was in fact open to the public, and it was apparent to me that I was being trying to keep out of the meeting for some reason. So I would like to encourage the council to vote no to the approval of this for Midstate Construction. And I would also encourage you to vote or motion to allow J. Cumbie Construction to do the project. As of now, they're approximately $27,000 and some change higher than my bid. I'm not asking for more money. I can do it in 90 days, and I can do it for my same price. So thank you. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Cumbie. We appreciate your comments. I would like to, if I could, ask Dan to speak to the fact of the bidding process with the hospital and projects. And
well, first of all, the Cookeville City Council tonight has not been asked to approve the bid or award a contract to anybody. They've just been asked by the hospital to approve a project for an amount of money not to exceed a certain figure. So as far as the awarding of the bid, that would be between the contractors and the hospital itself. It's my understanding the hospital is governed by special bid law statutes that aren't necessarily applicable to the city of Cookeville. They wouldn't be applicable to Putnam County or the Board of Education for that matter. It's my understanding they operate under a private act, and there are statutes that allow them quite a bit more latitude in what contractor they choose to do any particular work. So the only thing the City Council is asked to pass on tonight is whether or not this project should be approved, and then the mechanisms of that bid process and which contractor to award the bid to are decisions of the hospital.
all right, thank you, Dan.
The amount requested here, is it different than the amount that the board recommended as far as the Midstate is? Sometimes you ask for more money.
The amount, yes,
orders or whatever.
Councilman, the amount is higher than the actual bid award, but that is to give us the latitude in the event that there are any change orders or unforeseen circumstances in the construction or renovation.
So it's not necessarily that the price is increased?
No, the
per
price
se.
is not increased. It's just to allow us the latitude of any unknowns that may occur and not having to come back before the council to ask for any additional funds for this project.
Right. Just wanted to clarify that.
Certainly.
Any further comments? Any comments from the audience? I'd just like to say I have spoken with Mr. Cumbie, and I appreciate all contractors who bid on all of our projects here in the city. It's not an easy process, as Councilman Williams, I'm sure, can attest to pull together all of that information. And we want to have a process that encourages people to want to participate in our projects as we grow as a city. And so hopefully in the future we can have a more smooth and better communication possibly that would enable that to happen. I certainly don't think that anyone has intentionally done something preventing people from coming to meetings or anything. I think it was pure lack of communication. But for the future, I think that it would benefit all of us if we could make sure that all people that want to bid and participate in this process are treated fairly and communicate it openly and freely. And certainly, for the record, having sat on the board over there at the hospital for a few years now, and Vice Mayor can attest, they are open to the public for those of you that want to come. We usually, as we have empty chairs here tonight, we usually have empty chairs at the board meetings at the hospital. So we would encourage you to come. So, any other comments by the council? Any further comments from the audience? Seeing none, all vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. Item 13, consider approval of refinancing debt for Cookeville Regional Medical Center, sponsor Cookeville Regional Medical Center. Paul Korth.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. On behalf of the Cookeville Regional Medical Center Board of Trustees, I'm here tonight to request your approval and consideration of the refinancing of our current outstanding debt. We will not issue any additional debt. This is just to enter into an agreement for a tax-exempt bank-qualified loan agreement with Fifth Third Bank and First Tennessee Bank. This would be a fixed interest rate agreement through what's called an interest rate swap agreement to lock the interest rate at a fixed amount. We're anticipating that amount to be no higher than 4.95%. The reason why we don't know exact is because you have to lock that on the day that you close. For the past years, we've been paying a little bit over 5.6%, or 5.06, a little bit less than 5.1%. For the money outstanding debt that we have through a letter of credit with Regions Bank, and that letter of credit expires in March of 2011. Some of the reasons for doing this, the key accomplishments in this new debt structure, it eliminates all bank and credit risk associated with selling bonds to the market that we're currently in, and it also generates a 7-year fixed interest rate deal that will save the medical center approximately $150,000 a year in interest expense. So I'm here tonight on behalf of the board to request that consideration and approval to move forward with the tax-exempt bank qualifying loan agreement.
All right, thank you, Mr. Korth. Do we have a motion and a second to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Have our motion and a second. Any discussion by the council?
What is the definition of credit facilities on that? Where it's talking about will hold up to $35 million of the credit facilities?
That's talking about the two banks. The two banks will be the credit holders. This debt is actually, a bank qualified debt is actually an agreement with the two banks.
No, I know it says it says the banks will hold up to $35 million of the credit facilities.
Right. What that means is Fifth Third will have $35 million of the debt, and First Tennessee will have $25 million of the debt for a total debt deal of $60 million.
What I was asking is that doesn't mean they're holding some note on our building.
Well, they will hold a note on the obligation on the revenue
facilities.
Not on the, they can't hold a note on the building. They're holding a note on the revenue obligation of the facility.
Okay.
Right.
I was just asking for the definition. I understand what that other meant.
Right.
And they're only restricted. One bank can't fund more than a certain percentage or dollar amount of the deal. Is that why there's two?
Well,
because we had Regions before. I just want to.
Regions also had a partner in the deal.
Oh, okay.
They had U.S. Bank was kind of a silent partner with them, and that's kind of the way Fifth Third will operate. First Tennessee's kind of a silent. Fifth Third's doing all the paperwork. Fifth Third is where all the names on, but they partnered with First Tennessee on some of the debt.
And this is how long was the deal? I don't think I heard that. Is it just?
It's a 7-year deal.
Okay.
Correct.
Paul, did we ever determine that this bank qualified debt that the hospital's going to issue is not going to put a crunch on the city's ability to issue bank qualified debt?
Correct, we did. And we can do, the laws have changed recently on that, and this is strictly a refinancing deal. It's not new money. So the $30 million that we're doing this year and then $30 million the very first of next year won't affect the 2010 fiscal year 2011 now, I guess it would be, of the city if they wanted to get additional borrowing of
but
debt.
the bank qualified total was $10 million, and now for 2 years it's $30 million.
That is correct. It's moved up to $30 million under the stimulus
just
plans.
Just make sure that
right.
If it turns out the other way, y'all are only going to be issuing $22 million or something.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, very good. Do we have any other comments by the council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Korth.
Thank you.
Item 14, consider awarding bid for the Dogwood Park water feature, sponsored Mr. Rick Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. You will remember in the first meeting of November, we considered bids for the Dogwood Park Fountain Plaza. At that time, you asked us to go back and rebid that project. We did go back and make some modifications to the specification, simplified the bid form, and re-advertised and received bids on December the 4th. There are two options. There's a base bid, one with a column feature and a bowl, and one without the column and the bowl with a center jet that would go up about 15 feet in the center of that in lieu of that column, that architectural feature. So those are the two options that you see there, or the two bids that you see there. We would recommend Earthborne Contractors as the low bidder meeting specifications.
All right, thank you, Mr. Woods. Do we have a motion and a second to approve?
Motion to approve bid with column and bowl.
Second. Second.
Very good. We have our motion and second. Any discussion by the council?
Certainly, I'm glad to see this moving forward and looking forward to seeing a fountain with a column and a bowl.
Yeah,
Definitely excited about it. See the architect, Mark Randolph's at the back. Thank him for his work.
Yes,
All the
thank
Leisure
you.
Services Department. It's exciting
Absolutely.
to see a permanent improvement come out there.
We certainly went over a lot of details with this, and I know I fought for the one without the column, but I certainly am willing and think it's just great to go ahead because it'll be nice. And
It's if you haven't been over there recently, people should take a walk through the Dogwood Park and look at the seating for the amphitheater. It's just the guys with the city, Alan Bowles, and all the people that work for you that have participated in that, and it's just really turned into a nice park and extremely functional. I think that the people of this community will continue to see the benefit of that investment long into the future.
Public Works employees as well.
And Public Works folks, that's true.
Yeah.
Very much so. Couldn't have done it without Greg Brown. They get their horn
Their
tooted
job's
all
not
the time.
finished yet, I don't think.
Very good. Any comments from the audience? Or any further comments from the council? Seeing none, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Withdrawal of item 15 brings us to item 16. Consider approval of emergency purchase of equipment for repairs at the wastewater treatment plant. Sponsor, Mr. Ronnie Kelly.
Mayor and council are seeking approval of an emergency purchase and a sole source purchase of a bearing and bearing assembly that fits two of our big screw pumps at our wastewater treatment plant. That cost is $16,277 and would recommend approval.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kelly. Do we have a motion and second?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion by the council? Seeing no discussion, any comments from the audience? Seeing no comments, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Item 17, consider approval of request to extend agreement for the purchase of proprietary phosphate blended chemical. Sponsor, Mr. Ronnie Kelly.
Mayor and council, March of last year, the council approved us to purchase a polyphosphate manufactured by Sequest for doing evaluation at our water treatment plant. Our evaluation period's about done. We wanted to extend that through the cold months, and get it into line with our regular bid process. We have solicited updated pricing. Our past pricing went through this month, so we've asked for new pricing, and the price has dropped from $10.98 down to $10.72.5 per gallon, and we would like to extend that evaluation through June. We anticipate using about 2,700 gallons of chemical during that time. I would recommend your approval.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kelly. Do we have a motion second to approve?
move approval.
We have our motion second. Any discussion by the council? See no discussion, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Kelly.
you.
Item 18, consider approval of health insurance contract for 2010. Sponsor, Mr. Mike
I could, I'd like to just give you a brief history again about our health insurance plan, where we started at, where we're at today. We basically are self-funded. We began this process about 12 years ago, in which contributions from the city on behalf of employees, and the employees, part of the premium that they pay is put into a health fund here. It's maintained by the city, and all our expenses, administrative costs, and claims are paid by the city on behalf of our employees and the members in that plan. We started in 2003 in the Blue Cross Blue Shield network, and we've been in what's called their Network P since 2003, that network of providers and physicians. And Blue Cross Blue Shield administers our plan for us. And we also, to try to help reduce the risk of the catastrophic medical claims, we purchase reinsurance. So we kind of have basically a $150,000 deductible per covered member. And there's another little $50,000 aggregating specific deductible that's on top of that. This is something we put in place last year. We have on average 460 contracts that are under the health plan, 460 employees with another 261 spouses covered, and roughly 280 children. So we cover a little over 1,000 members in our plan. The average age of the member that's covered, as far as the employee goes, is 49.6 years old. The average age of all the covered members, those 1,000 members, is almost 38 years old. In total covered benefits, after all the write-offs and things in that network, for this past fiscal year, through Blue Cross Blue Shield reporting through June 30th of 2009, we had $3.7 million in covered benefits. Out of that $3.7 million, the plan paid $2.8 million of that, and the employees cost shared in that another $955,000. So the employees cost share in those claims dollars, as well as what the plan's putting into it. Just to kind of show you what's happening, we've seen a significant increase in claims the last 18 months, really. Really started noticing some real jumps the last 6 months. But the plan itself averages paying $8,086 on behalf of a plan member, and roughly 31% of that is paid by the plan, $6,000, and the employees are paying 6.9% of that. On average, the employees are paying right at $2,000 of that $8,000 covered benefit. Just to show you where we were at in the prior period, we were at $6,507 per average claim, and that's jumped to $8,000. So you can see in the prior period we were at $4,600 is what the plan was paying out on behalf of employees. We also have seen a significant increase in what we consider excess claims, which is claims in excess of that $25,000 threshold. We've got 18 members that have over $1 million in claims, and that's 38% of our total claims that we paid out this past fiscal year. Just to kind of give you an idea where that was in the prior period, we had 12 members that were over that $25,000 threshold, and those 12 members had claims of a little over $500,000. So we've seen a significant increase in that. Just to kind of give you an idea, you can see our claims since 2004. This is by fiscal year. Not too bad as far as the trend up through fiscal year 08. Then you see in fiscal year 09 it went from $2.3 million in fiscal year 08 up to $3 million in fiscal year 09. And we're projecting right now to end this current fiscal year that we're in at $3.4 to $3.5 million in claims. You look at it on a calendar year basis, because our plan that we have, the health plan, runs on a calendar year basis from January to December. And again, you see that increase in the calendar year 2009 claims. You see that big jump. And again, but Blue Cross Blue Shield's estimates based on the current plan design that we have today of being, again, $3.4 to $3.5 million next year, just in claims. In terms of renewing the plan for 2010, right now the options are that if we don't make any plan changes, and based on the funding levels that's going into their health insurance plan, we will decrease our health insurance fund balance by over $700,000. That's based on claims estimates from Blue Cross Blue Shield. I asked them at that point in time, when we started seeing those numbers and those estimates, to let's look at some options that we could consider to try to lower that number and hopefully not decrease our fund balance quite so much. We looked at plan changes in terms of changing deductibles or benefits. and possibly increasing the funding that the employees pay toward the health premium. And looking at that, another option we considered was just simply a network change in the providers that we utilize. Blue Cross Blue Shield has another network, they call it Network S, which has many of the same physicians and healthcare facilities that we currently utilize, especially here in Putnam County. And simply by changing networks, those estimated claims dollars from Blue Cross Blue Shield decreased quite a bit to where we could potentially just, instead of a $700,000 decrease to our fund balance, might be around a $200,000 increase. Again, hopefully that's the case if we look at changing the plan and changing the network. And I guess basically that would be two things that I need you to consider, not to authorize the city manager to approve, would be to extend the contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield so they would administer our plan and we would continue to utilize the Blue Cross Blue Shield network. But I'd ask you to consider changing networks from Network P to that Network S so that we can hopefully see some savings in our claims dollars. I'd also ask you to consider that making that change to Network X effective March 1st. That would give, if we have some of our some of our employees or family members that have those long-term care issues that they've established with a medical provider, that would give them a couple of months to try to work this out with their provider, discuss it with them, and look at alternatives there. And then also, Blue Cross Blue Shield's fee that they charge us to participate in their network to administer our plan, that fee remains unchanged. They've agreed to hold that rate the same. The reinsurance that we purchased to cover our catastrophic claims, they've increased that premium almost 20%. Again, that's based on our claims experience and the illnesses, those serious illnesses that we have. They've started out as close to a 30% increase. We've got them down to this 19%, but I think that's about as far as we can get them at this point. But I'd ask you to approve the network change and also to authorize the city manager to approve the contract for the reinsurance with Sun Life.
All right, thank you, Mr. Davidson. Do we have a motion and or motions?
I move that we
Do what he said.
approve Mr. Davidson's request of extending our contract with them and to change to Network S and what else?
And
Those
approve
are the
our
two.
contract
Those are
for
the two things.
reinsurance with Sun Life.
The Network S and extending the contract.
All right.
Second.
And we have our second. All right, any discussion by the council?
I'm grateful that we can maintain the same level of care for our employees without a great big huge increase to them. And when we discussed it in the work session, we discussed that there were very little difference between the P and the, is it the P and the S?
The P and the S network. The local physicians and healthcare facilities, the majority of them are the networks that are, they're very similar. And
Yeah.
it's hard to find many differences in the participants in that network.
Okay.
Well, I'd just like to make note, in my place of employment, we made this change from the Network P to the Network S 4 years ago because the costs were dramatically higher to stay in the P. And my wife and family and most of the people at my place of employment were not impacted by it. We did some studies. I think you even looked at some of the providers that we have, and I think it was well over 80% or 88% of the physicians that people are currently seeing are covered under this. It's just a different mode of doing it. So we're not up here doing things that we're not doing ourselves. I think it's important to tell our employees that, because whenever we make changes, there's this assumption that we're watering it down. I think this is just a continuation of a good level of health care that we're providing to our employees without putting an exorbitant amount of risk upon the city and its tax-paying citizens. So we're thankful for the opportunity to work there. I know that we also discussed maybe a partnership with the hospital as it relates to a clinic, maybe possibility in clinic or wellness. So with the as we call them, the big wigs from the hospital here, we'd like to try to work that out with them. And so just to try to prove the health, because as we do have an aging workforce, taking care of ourselves and wellness and watching the things we eat is very important. So thank you for all your work on it. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Any further comments from the council? Any comments from the audience or the bigwigs? Seeing no further comments, I'll vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Let's see. This time, we've got item 19. Do we want to go ahead and have the hearing from officers, councilman, and city manager?
That is item 19.
Okay, well, item 19 is a presentation concerning an application for the $100,000 Tennessee Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant. Sponsored Mr. Tony Peak.
Mayor and council, this is a presentation to give you information, let you know that we are working on a LED lighting grant proposal. We became aware that there was 93 $100,000 grants available to cities in Tennessee. So we're trying our best to pull together a lot of information and apply for this grant, which I think we have to apply by the last of December. And we chose to do an LED lighting project. Heard a lot of good comments about the EPRI pilot that we got going on outside, and I'll point out that this project, the lights that we took down were using 42 kilowatt hours per month. The new LEDs that everyone likes even better is using 20.2 watts, so it's more than a 50% saving on electricity. And this is a no-match grant for the city, should we be lucky enough to obtain it. We chose parking lots in Cookeville, finishing City Hall, doing the West Side parking lot, Chamber of Commerce, the Boyd Street parking lot, and some others, trying to show enough expense of installing LED lighting that we could get up to the $100,000. We're looking into the carbon reduction and all of those kind of things. It'll be really good. And one other thing we wanted to show in this proposal, that we're going to take the savings from the power cost and the reduced maintenance and those kind of things and do future LED projects like the new parking lot across the street from City Hall. And one of the key issues, last item, I put on the PowerPoint that we want something that's manufactured in the United States. We want something that's manufactured in Tennessee, and we're trying hard to find that. Hopefully we will, but if we can't, we certainly want to stay within the United States. And with that, there's a lot of people on this committee that Mr. Shipley put together. He's sitting in on it, Gail Fowler, Mike Davidson, Brenda, James, Greg, and myself, and some others. And so if you got any questions I can't answer, I'm sure they'd be glad to. But again, this was just information sharing, and we will try to answer any questions that you might have.
All right,
Boyd Street parking lot. Where's the Boyd Street parking lot?
That is
Square?
behind what I call the old Robinson.
Okay.
Okay, yes, behind
That
the,
must be Boyd that parallels.
Must be.
Broad.
north of the square.
Yeah.
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 Okay, got it.
Yeah. There's overhead lighting in that on wood poles, and hope we wind up with something similar to what we got outside.
Very nice.
Very
out
nice.
there.
Thank you.
It's very good and very nice to have your direction that's brought us to that point. That's been really good, Tony. I appreciate it. And
Well, I know we
Good
have had a change too in our grant writing, so appreciate you picking up the staff picking up the ball and writing grants. It seems like that's your new thing to do. So appreciate you guys getting together and doing that.
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peak. At this time, we have our hearing of citizens and/or delegations, and we invite you to come and speak up to 3 minutes. If you have a comment or questions that you'd like to have expressed to the council, you can always come first and third Thursdays, except for this month. But starting back in January the 7th, I believe, Kathy, is that not the next council meeting?
January 7th.
So please come and join us. And does the council have any comments?
Well, I think we need to comment about the success of the TSSAA ball games that were held last weekend, and from every comment that I've heard, people have been so excited about it and think that we had a wonderful group of volunteers. I think probably 300 or 400 people volunteered to work in different capacities, and it seemed to be a very successful thing. And so publicly, I would like to thank all those volunteers for their time. I know some of them were pretty cold, I guess, at times, but anyway, the city does thank all those volunteers for that great service, and we really got to showcase last weekend.
To reiterate what she said, it was a huge amount of volunteers and a great effort between the city, the chamber, the county, and then TTU. So I was able to be out there all day one day, and I know others on the council and Mr. Shipley, the traffic division, they coordinated a massive parking plan, Randy Evans and Mark Maxwell, and so there was just on and on and on. We could keep naming folks, and it was just a really great effort, and showcased our city to thousands of people and news media across the state. So hopefully many good things will come from that in the end. Also, just want everybody to keep in the soldiers of the 278th who are being deployed in their thoughts and prayers this holiday season as well.
I'd like to keep encouraging everybody to keep their tax dollars here in the city of Cookeville, and I'm quite proud of the fact that my 8th grade students have used the word boycott, which is one of our vocabulary words, because they say Mrs. Anderson boycotts spending money outside of Cookeville, and so I went, wow, something got to them. And also I'd like to make a comment on a personal note, and not just because Bernie and Paul and everybody's here, but I've been very grateful and thankful for the Cookeville Regional Medical Center today, and we've had occasion to use it, and I'm just very grateful that we have such a good facility so close to home, and hope that everybody has a very Merry Christmas and enjoys the holidays, and certainly because of our stay at CRMC, we're going to have a Merry Christmas.
Very good. Any further comments? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. So voted. All right.